So today I am heading up north to do some scouting in the big woods to prepare for tracking in the snow this fall. And the spot that I'm going to looks pretty good. It's I did some digital scouting on Google Earth with aerial and topographic imagery, and there's some good hills and swamps and clear cuts, and looks like everything that deer would need to survive in that area of the big woods. So I got pretty high hopes, but we'll see. You never know until you get there. It's going to be about a 3-hour drive for me today, so it's a bit of a poke, but it's a good day for a drive, and so I'll see you guys up there. Couple of raspberries for the trip. Well, first off, I like to hone in on wetlands because I see the most sign around wetlands, like signpost rubs, and I'll often see scrapes too. So I like to look at those types of areas in the summer because the sign, I feel like it's more concentrated in these areas, and I also really like to hunt these areas as well because when I'm in cedar swamps, which is kind of what I primarily like to hunt, bucks will feed on cedar, and so when they feed on cedar, then they'll want to lay down, so they often feed and bed and leave signpost rubs in cedar swamps, which is, I really like that. Cedar swamps aren't the only wetlands or swamps that they'll feed in though. They'll pick at things here and there, but I just feel like my odds are better when there's like a lot of cedar around, because that means there's a lot of food, which means that there's a good chance that a buck has fed through there or will want to feed and then end up bedding down. The does will also want to be in there because there's good food, and if there's does, then the bucks will want to be in there as well. So there's a lot of reasons why I like cedar swamps. But like I said, cedar swamps aren't the only swamp that's good to hunt. I like spruce swamps too. I'll often see when I'm tracking that bucks will bed down in spruce swamps. They're not too picky where they bed down. They like fairly thick cover, but I'm in a spruce swamp right now, and I'll show you guys here in a second. But it's when I say swamp, these places aren't like saturated with water. It's just kind of like a pit and mound wetland, and the soil is saturated, but there's no standing water, so it's pretty easy walking. And both cedar and spruce swamps, they block a lot of the snow from hitting the ground, so it's easy for the deer to walk through in the wintertime when the snow starts to fall. So that's another reason why I like these swampy, or these wetlands. So I'm going to show you guys around in this spruce swamp here real quick so you can get an idea for what it looks like. It's very pit and moundy. It's very dry on the mounds. There's also there's often like old man's beard on these spruce trees and especially on the blowdowns. It is important to note though that the deer won't be feeding on this type of stuff right now, like during the summer, because it's a low quality food source. It's what they eat when they're kind of getting a little desperate. There's not much food around. So when the snow hits and everything's buried, the cedar and the old man's beard are a good food source, or the best food source they have to them. So that's why I'm sticking to these kind of areas in the summer. And so, because I don't really care where the deer are right now, because where they are right now is in their summer ranges, and they're eating like forbs and raspberries and leaves and other things like that, which that doesn't concern me right now because that's not where the deer are going to be come hunting season. Where they're going to be is in these cedar swamps, and in these spruce swamps where there's food. They'll definitely be up on mountains too, eating buds and things, but I think that the most nutritious food is down here in these swamps. So that's kind of why I focus in on the swamps first. But if there are surrounding mountains nearby, then that's even better, because that's another habitat that those bucks like to be in. So I feel like if they have those surrounding mountains, then they can come into the swamps, get the food that they want, then go back up into the mountains. When they have that diversity and good amount of nutrition, then they can grow big antlers and big bodies. Whereas if you're in an area that's just only mountains, then it's hard for them to put on as much weight and as much antler growth, because they're just eating like woody buds and vegetation like that, stems. It's not very palatable. It gets the job done, but it's not as good as having some of this more lush greenery down in these wetlands, at least in my opinion. Another thing you'll notice if you're coming from the south is the vegetation change as you move northwards. So when you're driving on the highway, you can notice it. The further north you get, the more like there's less oak, there's more evergreen trees, and so deer don't have the same food sources as they will down south. So like oak trees, there's no oaks, so they don't have any acorns to eat up here, so they're pretty limited to what they can eat. And so if you can hone in on what they do eat and kind of be in that area, then you'll increase your odds of finding some good sign while you're scouting. Another thing about these wetlands is that they are wet enough to hold black ash and green ash, and those trees specifically are what bucks like to leave signpost rubs on. Well, more specifically, I've seen them on other trees too, but they like the green and the black ash the best. There's a black ash tree here. It hasn't been rubbed on, but this is what they look like. They're very punky bark, so you can just peel it right off. And this is what their leaves look like. So that's what you're looking for. So my hope is that by being in these wetlands where there's a lot of food and the does like it in here and there's places to bed down, my hope is that there's going to be some signpost rubs in here, and that's kind of like my goal, is just to find signpost rubs. If I find a series of scrapes, that's good too. But just like one scrape, small scrape here and there, is like, that'll tell me bucks are in the area, which is a good sign. But I don't find that they go back to those areas time and time again like they do with signpost rubs. So my goal is to find some signpost rubs today. The best time to scout is during the season, when you can follow the tracks and see where the deer bring you. And another good time is like in May-ish, when the snow is melted enough, just enough so that way you can start to see the ground. And then that way all the leaves are off the trees. And so you can still see everything. Like, it looked just like hunting season, so it's pretty easy to find stuff. Right now, I don't know if you guys can see, but there's quite a bit of greenery out here, so it can be hard to find the scrapes, and the vegetation can grow up over the rubs, so you might miss some things, but you just got to keep that into account when you're out here scouting in the summer when stuff has grown up. This is the process that I use for when I'm trying to find new areas to track during hunting season. I'll do the same process. I'll look for the wetlands, I'll dive into them, scout around the edges of them, poke in and out of them, and see how it looks, see how much cedar's in there, see if there's good food sources. And 9 times out of 10, when I do some good digital scouting, just by looking at being able to see the swamps on Google Earth or on Onx, and then looking at the mountains nearby, I can kind of get a picture for if deer would like to be in the area. And 9 times out of 10, when I get to the spot, I usually find some good tracks. So this is the process that I use, and it works well for me. I'm sure there's other people have different ways that they scout in the big woods, but this is how I do it anyway. Right here, I was able to find a signpost rub. It's not very big, but definitely a signpost. You can see where it's been worn over the years. And then if you come around the side here, I don't know if you guys can see it that well, but there's some like lighter coloration. There's some lighter coloration from last year. And so that's what I'm looking for, guys, is, I mean, ideally, it'd be nice if this was a bigger tree, but definitely a signpost, so I know that bucks are cruising through here, and this would be a good tree to check back when the snow falls, to see if any bucks have been hitting this signpost. So don't expect to find signpost rubs every time you go out. There's a lot of room to roam out here in the big woods, and the best that you can do is keep scouting and look in those areas that are the highest probability, and sooner or later you're bound to find one. Alright, so I found another rub here in a black ash. A little bit bigger this time, which is good. I'm not sure if this is a signpost though, it's kind of hard to tell. It does have a little bit of wear here in the middle, but that could have been done. This could have all been done at one time, so I'm not 100% sure. It's not too far from that other signpost rub though, so at least I know there's some deer in the area. I found a couple of rubs here on some black ash trees. Take a look. You can see the tine marks in this one here pretty clearly. And then there's one here. And then an old one here. They're all pretty old, but at least I know that bucks are moving through the area. We have a scrape here. You can see how old this looks because it's in the middle of the summer. But it's clearly a scrape because if you come up here to this beach, it's been twisted up. Right there, it's almost broken off, and you can see some tine marks in it. So it's definitely a scrape. Right now I'm on the point of a ridge, and it goes down like that, and then down over there is where that swamp was that I just came from. So as you can see, guys, you can definitely scout in the summer in the big woods and have success. That being said, it's way easier to do scouting in season when you're actually tracking, so that way the deer bring you where they like to travel and they show you all their spots. Or even in the spring when the vegetation hasn't grown up, because I mean, you can just see how thick that is right now. So it's really hard. You really got to keep an eye out for scrapes and rubs. But if you know that going into it, then you should be able to have some success like I have today. I'm back on the road now. I'm gonna wrap this up. It's starting to rain. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.